Hi, Assalamualaikum, everyone. How are you doing today? Okay, for today, I will explain about trend analysis. Trend analysis is really important for stock investment. So before we enter into the market, we need to identify the market trend or a stock trend. Okay, how we going to do the trend analysis? Before that, we should know what is a trend analysis. Okay, trend analysis basically we try to analyze the existing trend for a certain stock. So how we going to do or how we want to identify the trend. Okay, the trend line is a straight line drawn on a chart through or across the significant limit of price range to define the current trend of market movement. Okay, the trend line is one of the first technical aspects of the market to be discovered by the investor. Before you make any decision to buy or to sell any stock, you should identify the trend. So what is a trend line? Okay, a trend line is just a straight line drawn above the stock chart. Okay, basically we have three type of trend. Okay, the first one is uptrend, downtrend, and sideway. Okay, before I go further with the type of trend, so I would like to explain about the importance of trend line. So the first important of trend line is to help us to identify the current direction of the movement for specific stocks. Okay, we can also use the trend line as a tool for trend confirmation. Then we can also use the trend line to identify or to determine if and when the movement will change. Okay, first I will explain about uptrend line. So uptrend line is whereby a line is drawn on the chart by connecting at least two lower points. Okay, so each lower point is should be higher than the previous low point. This progression gives trend line an upward slope. Okay, let's look the example here. Okay, so if we can see, we have 5 different points over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so how are we going to draw the trend line? So we should connect at least the two low points. So in this case, if you want to draw the uptrend line, so we should connect the point number 3 and point number 5. Okay, this is another example how we going to draw the upward trend line. Okay, as we can see, the uptrend line should be below the current price. Okay, so we are connecting all the lowest point and the rules, remember? So each low point should be higher than the previous low. Okay, so for example, this is the first low point, and then this is the second low point, and then this is another low point. So we assume that the uptrend line still valid as long as it's creating a higher low. Okay. Then we move to downtrend line. Okay, a downtrend line is drawn with a line on the chart connecting the highest point for a specific period of time. Okay, the rule is each high point should be lower than the previous high. Then it will give us a downward slope. Okay, so if we refer to this example, so how are we going to draw the downtrend line? So we will connect point number 2 and point number 4. Remember, I mentioned before, okay, each higher point should be lower than the previous high. So it indicates a downtrend. Okay, so if you see this example, okay, we can see that point number 1 is the first high point, and we can see the price movement show a decreased movement, and it creating a second higher point, and then goes down further to create another lowest high. Okay, so we connect those points and it become a downtrend line. Downtrend line will be plotted above the stock chart or the stock price here. You can see? Okay. Okay, the third trend is a sideways trend. Okay, sideways trend is horizontal price movement that occur when the price uh, does not change so much, which it means that the forces between supply and demand are almost equal. Okay, so a sideways trend is often regarded as a period of consolidation before the price continue in the direction of a previous move. Sometimes we call it the sideways trend, also as a correction trend. Okay, how it look like? It looks like this. Okay, a sideways trading range. As we can see, during the downtrend, so they make a correction or consolidation by forming the sideways trend. Okay, what is important about trend analysis? Okay, so trend analysis is based on the idea that what happened in the past give the traders idea on what will happen in the future. If you still remember about the basic philosophy of technical analysis, one of that is history will repeat. Okay, so by using this assumption or this philosophy, so trend analysis can be used by the trader to help them to make a decision to buy or to sell. Okay, there are three main type of trend. Okay, as explained by the Dow theory. So we have a short, intermediate, and long-term trend. Okay, so by doing the trend analysis, we try to predict or we try to forecast a trend like a bull market or a bear market. Okay, trend analysis is very helpful because moving with trend and not against them will lead a profit for investor. Okay, if we can see how we're going to classify either the trend is long term, intermediate, or a short term. Okay, first we go for the long term, or we call it as a major trend. So this trend normally categorized as one lasting longer than a year. So minimum around 1 year and above. Okay, this one we call it as a long term trend. Whereas for intermediate trend, it should be between 1 to 3 months. Okay, or sometimes is above it between around 3 weeks and above. Okay. And then a short-term trend, a component of both major and intermediate. Short-term normally is less than 1 month. Okay. So let's see some example here. Okay. This chart shows that swing 1, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 3, 4 show us the major trend, which is an up trend. While swing 2 and 3 represent intermediate trend. Okay, and swing A, B, C, D within the swing 2 and 3, we call it as a short-term trend. Okay, so this is another example. Okay, for long term is uptrend. For medium term is example like this. So means that the stock price will move increase and then make some correction. So this correction normally we call it as a medium trend. So it depends how long the correction takes. If it takes more than 1 month, we consider it as a medium trend. However, if the correction happen less than 1 month, we classified them as a short-term trend. Okay. So how are we going to use the trend line in helping us to make a decision to buy and to sell? Okay, remember, we always buy during an uptrend market. Okay, because we will face a very low risk compared to if we buy during the downtrend market. Okay, so for example, how are we going to identify the buying point during uptrend? Okay, so whenever the price make a correction and touch the uptrend line and bounce back again. So this one we call it as a buy signal. So we can always buy whenever the price make a correction in uptrend line. Why we need to buy during the correction and it's bound back? Because this provide us a lower price or the best price compare if we buy somewhere here, for example. Okay. Whereas the application of downtrend, so whenever the price touch the downtrend line, for example, here, okay, this is a selling point. Okay, so we buy somewhere here, we sell it somewhere here. Okay, how we want to identify the valid breaking of the trend line? So how we want to identify either the trend will continue resuming the previous trend or the trend will change to the other trend. Okay, remember the basic rules. When we draw the trend line, uptrend line, for example, we should connect the minimum two lowest point. And the rule is those two lower point should be higher than the previous one. Okay, whenever it's creating a lowest point, okay, so it give us a signal that the trend might be reversed. Okay, it's not a confirmation yet, but it's maybe reversed. For example, here we're connecting two lowest point and suddenly the price break out the trend line and creating a lowest point. This is the first signal that maybe the current trend will reverse. It's not a confirmation yet. Okay. So however, if you already make a profit before, at this point, you can take profit and save your position. Okay. The same goes to the downtrend line. Okay. So if we can see that the price starting creating a higher high, for example here, so the downtrend we connecting highest point, and then when the highest price or highest point or when the price creating the highest high, so it a signal that the trend might be reversed. Okay, something like this. Okay, this one also a buy signal. Okay, factor that determine the significance of trend line. First, the length. The longer the period, the more significant that the trend line will be. Okay, trend line that develop more than 3 months is much more significant compared to the trend line for less than 3 months. Okay, then number of time it has been tested. Okay, how many times the price try to break the trend line. And number 3 is the steepness or the slope of the trend line. Okay, so the slope of trend line will help us either the trend is significant or not. Okay, I will give you some explanation further about trend line in the next video when I demonstrate you on chart nexus. With all, I thank you. All the best. Assalamualaikum.